Hey everybody, Steve here. We're continuing on with Jesus Project 365. We just finished up Matthew chapter 7, and basically what we end up with is Jesus saying, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rains came and the floods and the wind buffeted it, and it stands against those persecutions and those trials. It comes against uh, those things that the enemy. And then it says, but everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who's built his house on the sand. In other words, there's no firm foundation. It's not based on the truth of God and his word. And if your foundation is not true, it will crumble, it will crack, and the whole house will fall down. Um, when Jesus finished these sayings, the crowds were amazed at his teaching because he taught as one who had authority and not as the teachers of the law. You see, with Jesus, he has been given all power and authority. And what we see when he begins to preach in chapter 4 and continues on and gives examples of what we're supposed to do with him and his word and how we're supposed to bounce our lives in the light of the mirror of God and his word, to be the salt and light, the Beatitudes, how he fulfilled the law, and that it's all about him and his righteousness. Um, reconcile, murder, adultery, divorce, oath, eye for an eye, love your enemies, giving to the needy. Your prayers, your fasting shouldn't be as something that you do in front of people to get recognition now, but should be done in secret to your Father in heaven, and he'll reward you. It goes on in chapter 6 where it talks about the treasures in heaven. Don't worry about what you're going to eat or drink, but, seek first his kingdom. And that really simplifies life. If we concentrate on God and his word and get down to what it actually says, it becomes real clear on who's his and whose are not. Chapter 7 talks about judging others. Don't be a hypocritical judge like the Pharisees or fake Christians or false prophets. You ask, seek, and knock. Are we really serious about God and his word and what we're really seeking after and asking? Are we asking about him and his righteousness? Talks about the narrow and the wide gates. That narrow is the road that leads to salvation, and wide and broad is the road that goes to destruction. And he talks about the tree and its fruit, and that not everybody who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. They'll say, didn't we do all these good things? Didn't we, cast out demons and whatever else and prophesy? And he'll say, I never knew you. You can know all the things there is to know about Jesus, but if you're following a false Jesus, your adoration, your service, your whatever you're doing is going to a false Jesus rather than the real Jesus. And that's why Jesus said, if you hear these words of him, put them into practice, incorporate them in your lives, because if you don't, you're going to be foolish. And when those trials and tribulations come, you're going to be relying on a foundation that isn't solid, that's not going to stand. And we know that God's word is true, and it stands forever. Jesus said that him and his words would last forever. Heaven and earth would pass away. So that's why it's important that we have him in our hearts. That's why we follow him. And I don't know. Jesus, the crowds were amazed because he taught with one who had authority. If we read God's word and it doesn't convict us of sin or the things that we're doing wrong in our lives, or encouraging us or admonishing us to, or correcting us or training us in righteousness, to go forward on in the faith and to cast off the flesh and follow in him, then maybe we're not looking at it in the right light. Maybe we're holding it out at arm's length away from our heart to where where God can actually judge the thoughts and the attitudes of our heart. Sometimes we get so selfish we don't want God's word to get that close. But that's what it's all about. It's dying to self and living for him. I think as time is going on, there's going to be a lot of people where we need to look at what we're doing and to really ask God and evaluate it in light of God's word to see if those are the things that we need to do. And it's going to hit every area of our life, whether it's work, whether it's hobbies, whether it's family, whether it's spending time on YouTube, whether it's anything and everything is fair game to God, because everything is supposed to be in submission to Him. You know, we're supposed to be His servants. We've been bought with a price. You know, and for the one who saved us, you know, there's that gratitude of I'm going to give my life to you because of what you did, even though I didn't deserve it. But I think there's a time is coming where we need to look out and we need to see if we're wise or if we're foolish, and if those parts that are foolishness in our lives, and we need to get rid of those and hand them over to God. So, but anyway, that's it for Matthew chapter 7. Lord willing, we'll continue on with Matthew chapter 8 tomorrow. Take care. God bless. Peace.